In case you don't know, this is the Cole Squared Podcast, a semi-regularly recorded feature where we talk all kinds of stuff, including movies, video games, and whatever we really want to. If you like us, subscribe so you can get notified whenever your favorite internet assholes are at it again. Hey, I'm Cole.
And I'm Cole.
And this is the Cole Squared Podcast. Cole, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about John dies at the end and Gladiator.
Excellent. So, yeah, we're just going to talk about the two movies that John dies at the end in Gladiator.
Way to repeat.
We decided we want to talk about movies, and Cole's choice was John dies at the end because he's already seen it, and my choice was Gladiator because I've already seen it. Two very different movies that sort of reflect our personalities and what we think is good.
You didn't think John dies at the end was good?
It was something. Also, both of us took notes during our respective movies.
So we'll be able to talk about it better.
Okay. What are we starting with first?
I figure, give me your first talking point.
For John dies at the end?
Yeah.
Oh, why did you pick this movie?
Why did I pick this movie? I just thought it's a wild ride, and it's a complete cult film, and is ridiculous, and no one knows about it whatsoever because it's bad. It's a bad movie.
That's very true.
And
I liked it. I like parts of it.
I mean, like it's funny. It's funny at points, but I've read the book it's based on, which is also called John Dies at the End.
I figured.
And I've read the sequel to it, which is this book is full of spiders. Seriously, don't open it. That's the sequel book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I've read some of that, and I read the first one, and
so they both have like non-regular book titles.
Yeah, they're just completely wild, ridiculous things that were internet stories written by David Wong. Something you have to understand about John Dies at the End is that David Wong is the author. He wrote himself into his own story.
Oh, okay.
And this is just him saying, man, I want to go on a batshit adventure.
Oh, okay.
And that's the whole thing.
That's kind of cool.
And it's just this... it's bad, though.
Yeah. All right. Should I just read aloud my notes? Like, verbatim?
No.
Okay.
Talk about it. You said you had questions?
Well, my main questions were the fact that I was confused the whole time. So basically, I was like, is John actually going to die? Like, that was, well, my first thing was, thank God we're not watching Angry Birds right now, because that was a possibility.
Oh, yeah, the first thing we said we were going to watch was Angry Birds the movie, and we got probably 1.5 minutes or less into the movie, and Cole said we had to turn it off.
It was very true.
And I had notes for that.
Yeah. Well, someday. Yeah, my only questions were like, okay, so what I assume what happened is that the soy sauce gave them... Jesus Christ. The soy sauce gave them... Sorry, Cole just ruined the podcast with his phone.
It happens.
The soy sauce gave them supernatural abilities that let them go into hell and other dimensions and see the people or the creatures of hell, and then they had to fight them. Including doorknob penises, weird Jamaican people, and a lot of surprise tits.
Oh, yes. There is almost full frontal nudity in this movie, which I forgot to inform Cole.
I was like, what the heck am I watching?
There are some bare naked titties right at the end. No, they don't go to other dimensions. They can see shit from other worlds in our world, but they can't go to other dimensions until the end.
Oh, okay. And that's when they meet the two guys that they don't care about.
Yeah, okay. Because this whole thing is David Wong. It's a frame narrative inside of a frame narrative inside of a frame narrative, which is really bad.
Yeah.
So it starts... what is it? Dang, I forgot the word, but it starts in the middle of the story. So
Non-chronological.
Non-chronological, but there's a Latin term for it, but I forgot it.
I'll Google it.
But you start with him chopping the guy of the head off, which is a year before he talked to Arnie. And then when he starts talking to the journalist, then the real narrative of the story starts with the meat monster, which is after the events of the whole movie.
Yeah, that's because that's when they're hunters.
That's when they're hunters. That's after all of this.
Gotcha.
So then it goes back to him and the detective, and then it actually starts the movie. Oh, and media res. There we go. That is the Latin term for when you start a movie in the middle of the story. So
the Latins knew terms for movies before they even had movies. That's how smart they were.
it's Deus Ex Machina.
Ooh, it's creepy.
But yeah, so you've got a ton of narrative that doesn't matter when you start the film, and then you actually start the film with the story. And where was I? What were we talking about? It was frame narrative and frame narrative.
You're talking about how like it starts in the middle and how it's just sort of confusing until you really learn what's going on. I think.
Yeah. What were we talking? What was your question again?
Oh, my question was it had to do with the surprise tits, I think. It's like I feel like this movie it's the way that it's like laid out, it sort of reminded me of Pulp Fiction, which is my favorite movie of all time.
I've never seen Pulp Fiction.
Okay, that's an episode. But Pulp Fiction basically starts off near the end of the movie. Like the very first scene in Pulp Fiction makes no sense. It makes like no sense. It starts off near the end of what the whole story is, but it's still like good and watchable. I say it makes no sense. It makes sense, like it's a story, but you don't really have any idea of what's going on until like you see how it fits into the whole scope of things, like at the end of the movie.
Which is completely different from John dies at the end, which by the end of the movie, you still have no clue what's going on. I remember what I was going to say. Okay, the entirety of John dies at the end is him, is David Wong going from being a skeptic of everything that's happening to becoming extremely jaded to everything that's happening.
Okay, that's interesting.
Because when you're at the actual start of the actual start of the story, which is when he gets the soy sauce, he's questioning Bob Marley, the Jamaican guy.
I feel like his name was actually different from that.
No, it was Robert Marley.
Oh, okay.
And he's skeptical of that guy's ability, and then he gets some of the soy sauce. The soy sauce is a drug which lets them look into other dimensions. But yeah, so then he starts seeing garbage, and John's like, all right, here's what's happening via the phone calls, right? Mm-hmm. So what's happening...
The phone calls through the bratwurst.
The phone calls through the bratwurst, because, you know, that's just how John talks.
Yeah.
My one of the really good scenes in it was when he told David to look into the hot dog bun, and there was $100 in it, and it was just lettuce.
Yeah,
that was so good.
And he was like, "All right, just pull some money out of the ATM."
Where's your ATM card? But yeah, so you've got him going through the spectacle of that, and then he gets the soy sauce again, where his brain processes so much that he goes back in time, and then causes a bullet to be manufactured wrong so it won't kill him when he shoots it.
Yeah.
Which it took me 3 times to realize that's what actually happened.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I didn't get that right away. I don't know why. But then when you get to the end and you see the credit scene, they enter another dimension and they're just completely jaded about it. Like, they don't care. They're like, this is just a waste of my time.
Yeah.
Because they go, dude, we have all this power, to this is their life now.
Yeah.
That's it.
People ask them for help because they can.
Exactly. And then they go to other dimensions and It's like, we've done this a million times. I'm not gonna do it again.
Yeah. I did notice. I wrote down a few notes about cool stuff I remember in the movie. There was a lot of stuff in it that sort of took me out from it. Like, at one point, they see a ghost door, and though the two main characters, John and David, can see the ghost door because they're on the supernatural soy sauce, but their friend cannot see the ghost door until they give her 3D glasses. Yeah, that made me upset. I was like, okay, so all of the rules of this game, of this movie are just gone at this point. Like,
But there's no rules.
But the soy sauce.
There's no rules to John dies at the end at all. I have it in my notes. I have, this never explains or shows the power of the soy sauce.
That's a good point.
What does the soy sauce do?
What
does the soy sauce let you do?
It lets him know the coins in the guy's pocket.
I wrote down that it's plot fuel, because you put that into a character and they spit out plot.
That's a good point. I wrote down some stuff that I thought was cool. They had some nice points. I wrote, cool point with the dream Jamaican. When he was talking about how John had a dream, and at the very end of the dream, a bomb goes off, and the sound of the bomb was at the exact same time as a thunderstorm. And he said, how did your brain know to start the dream and end the dream in that way with the thunderstorm sound ending with the bomb explosion? And I thought that was really cool, because I don't know about you, but I've had similar experiences to that, to where, like, I've had a dream that ends, or it'll be like really weird stuff, like I'll wake up to the sound of my text message going off, and it correlated with my dream and stuff like that. Or like my alarm, I was on like a submarine, and like my alarm was the same exact thing as like the same time as like the alarms on the submarine was going off.
Yeah, I have like I have our water filter on in my room. It's in my closet. Mm-hmm. And I constantly hear water rushing when I'm sleeping. Mm-hmm. So I had a dream where everything was just flooding. Mm-hmm. And then what had happened is, in my room, one of the pipe bursts, and there was just water spilling out all over into my closet. Yeah. And as soon as that pipe bursts, that's when my dream was like, you're dead. There's water everywhere. Dang. And I woke up to like just this bursting sound and water everywhere, and it was the scariest thing in my life.
That's crazy.
So like, but I wrote down something for that too, and I wrote down that this movie's really fake deep.
Yeah, that's what I also felt at the other cool moment, which now that you say fake deep, it makes me rethink that saying it's a cool moment. At when he goes to die, and he's like dissecting the universe as he's dying, and he's like, really all of these decisions were made as soon as the Big Bang happened. And then as he's going through this, I think I remember at some point, like near the end, he just goes, and then he just cuts away for no reason.
Oh yeah, he says, when he gets to the end of it, he says that at the point of the Big Bang, all particles were set in motion, and because all particles are set in motion, you can't deviate from that path.
Yeah.
But then he says, I quickly stopped that thought, and just ends it, because that thought didn't matter. None of it matters. There's 3 events that really matter in this entire story.
Well, does anything matter in this story?
No. You've got injecting him with the soy sauce.
Somehow, because the vaccine had a cap in his pocket. But
no, he took it off.
Oh, okay.
He took it off because when he went to John's house, he looked at it and he took it off because he's stupid. And then he just put it in his pocket to show the police later.
Yeah.
But he didn't put the cap back on, so when he was sitting, he sat in a way where it went in there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that was it. It was just him being stupid. But him getting injected, then the scene immediately following where Roger North tells him how he's part of something greater. And then at the end when they kill the squid. And that's the 3 things that matter in the movie.
You mean Cannon?
What?
Cannon? Wasn't the squid's name Cannon?
No, the squid's name was like Korok. It was Korok.
Oh yeah, Korok. I thought it was spelled completely different until I went back and I read the Wikipedia plot summary so that I knew everything that was happening, and I thought it was spelled completely. It might have just been like, never mind. It's not important.
It's important.
Let me check my other notes.
Oh, how about John dying in the middle of the movie?
Oh, I wrote that down. I wrote. I'll get back to that in a second. I wrote cool point with Jamaican and Dream, and then I just wrote John died.
John died.
John died. Not at the end. In like halfway through. And then I had no idea that he was going to come. He didn't die at the end, spoiler alert. This book freaking lies. I can't even trust the title.
Yeah, John doesn't die at the end. He just, through the abilities of plot, is a dog. And then he gets back to being a human.
Yeah. My God. Something that I wrote down was... I keep going away from the microphone. Something that I wrote down was, I'm not a fan of weird things for the point of being weird. And I wrote that down because at some point they're fighting this woman, I think, who's like a different woman than what she's supposed to be. And he goes to escape, and then the doorknob just turns into a penis.
Yes.
Like, stuff like that. Like, I like weird stuff. Like, I love Dark Souls because all of the weird stuff in that sort of makes sense for the universe, but weird stuff for the sake of being weird is not my cup of tea.
Yeah, that's all of David Wong's stories.
Is it really?
Yeah, that's... David Wong's writing is just, hey, this would be weird, this would be cool, let's do it.
Yeah.
And that's just the way he writes. But I understand. Although I do have something I thought cool about that scene. Is that scene makes it so you're aware that the entire movie is from David's point of view.
Oh yeah, that is a good point.
Because you're seeing the woman as a girl who looks like Amy, who he will eventually have a love interest with.
Yeah.
Whereas John saw her as a buxom blonde woman.
Who I assume he had a love interest with at some point. Was that explained?
No, that never comes up.
Oh.
It's just a name mentioned.
Well, I don't even know what I'm talking about at this point. I also wrote... The movie had a lot of awkward camera angles, and I wrote... Hell equals radio frequency accessed via soy sauce. Just because I broke down what I thought the plot was in my head, and I just thought that was funny.
I have... Yeah, speaking of the camera angles, I put a lot of zooming into Dave's face.
Yes, and a lot of tight shots of just Dave's face reacting to something weirdly.
Reacting to something weirdly or not showing the thing he's reacting to.
Yes.
The thing that's the perfect example of that is they're in a police center. Mm-hmm. Remember, it's him and Detective Applebloom. Appleton?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Applebottom.
Applebottom. And they're talking, and they could have had that whole scene with the camera showing both of them. They are never in the same shot.
Yeah.
Until the end. And then the other thing with that shot is this was completely coincidental, is David Wong and the detective are dressed in completely opposite colors. Mm. So that should convey that they're the opposite, or that they have something to, like, they mean something to each other.
That's something that happens later on when we talk about Gladiator that I could bring up.
This is true, but unlike Gladiator, which is an artful movie, that just happened.
Yeah. It's like, it's equivalent to in High School Musical 2 when Ryan and Corbin Blue, I don't remember, Chad, when Ryan and Chad are wearing their outfits, and then in the next shot,
they switch them.
They're just wearing each other's outfits with no explanation or reason. That's the amount of importance that you get in John Dies at the end for an hour and a half.
I can't talk about High School Musical.
Why not?
I remember nothing about it. Like, when I was little, I was really into High School Musical. And then I just completely forgot it.
I have the special edition DVD that features all of the choreography.
Well, next episode.
The choreography of High School Musical.
A complete rundown on Cole Squared.
I say John Dies at the end was bad. And it was. but it doesn't mean I don't think I enjoyed it.
It's bad, but it's fun.
Yeah, I think I had fun on it.
Like, it's just a wild ride with really interesting visuals. Bad effects, but interesting visuals.
Yeah, it had some interesting ideas, like when they went to the totally utilitarian world featuring Kanak, Kanan, Korok, dang it. And it's sort of like, have you seen, shoot, I forgot what it's called. I think it's called 2081.
2081?
Yeah. It's sort of like a 1984 thing in the future, and like everybody's like built to be equal, and so all the beautiful people have to wear masks. I sort of got like a vibe of that from that world because everybody's wearing masks, except for like a few people for some reason.
No, all of them were wearing masks.
All of them were wearing masks?
There wasn't a single person not wearing a mask.
Yeah, and it just sort of like takes
They
away
got their tits out.
Very true. People are identified by their tits in this world. Sorry, guys.
No, there were men in the audience.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
4. Not including John and David.
No. 4 naked men with the tits out.
Hell yeah.
But before the end, they get weapons out. Mm-hmm. You know, they get weapons out of the truck. And John pulls out that bat lined with the Old Testament.
I thought that was cool.
It's cool, but all of the promotional artwork for John Dies at the End features the bat with the Old Testament on it.
Okay, that was in the movie for maybe 8 minutes.
Exactly.
God dang it.
I wanted to mention that because...
Yeah.
Hey guys, here's this real important thing that I'm sure you'll be happy to see. Or not.
Or not. It's whatever.
There's... Dang. When you can't talk about Rogue One yet.
Yeah, I can't talk about Rogue One until next weekend.
Leave Rogue One spoilers in wherever you watch this.
Oh my gosh. Any more comments on John Dies at the End?
Yes, the ghost hand was the worst effect in the whole movie.
That was, but I thought that was kind of cool.
It was cool, but it was the worst.
That was pretty awful.
And my last thing, and then I guess we'll say our full conclusive thoughts.
Wait, can I say something real quick?
No.
I'm going to say it anyway. It reminded me kind of like, have you played the game Splosion Man?
I have not played Splosion Man.
When you blow up somebody in Splosion Man, they just turn into a bunch of meat. That's what I thought throughout this whole movie. Because every time someone dies, they just turn into a bunch of meat.
Oh yeah, it's a gory movie.
Yeah.
My last thing is Korok at the end. All the comments he makes. That's the reason why I'm embarrassed to show this movie to people.
I forgot what he said.
This is a quote from the movie. This isn't my style of humor at all. He says, with just a little change to your brain chemistry, I can turn you into a child molester.
Oh, yeah.
And that specific line is why I dread showing this movie to people.
That made me a little bit uncomfortable.
It makes me extremely uncomfortable. It's really bad. Granted, David Wong's writing is just full of that type of humor.
Really?
Yeah. It's like, here, I'll give my final thoughts on John Dies at the End, along with David Wong's writing. It's an adventure. It's really wild. It has a ton of ideas that it could elaborate on and do better, but it just doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest problem with John Dies at the End, is there's little to no character development unless you're specifically looking for it like I was when I watched it this time. The story, I'm thinking only David Wong can follow it to a T. I doubt even the most diehard fans of John Dies at the End can easily tell you everything that happened and why it's important.
Yeah.
3, they use the same slug creature a bunch of times and that's never explained. And that's my full... I give it 6 out of 10 Johns.
I'll be rating on a different scale, by the way. My closing for John Dies at the End, I seen it one time and I saw it this morning. I feel like Cole said, it had a lot of interesting ideas, and I love creativity in movies. And I don't know, there's a lot of bad B-movie jokes, and I don't know if they used the same slug creature just for that B-movie aesthetic. Like, maybe they were trying to, like, intentionally make it look bad. But even if they were, it was bad. And it's never, like, explained. There's a lot of stuff I feel like happened in this movie that's just meaningless. And so for that, I give it 2 out of 4 Wongs.
You know, if I had to say John Dies at the End was one of the friends in our friend group, I'd have to say he's the friend that's fake deep.
Fake deep.
Conclusion,
Fake deep. Gladiator, the 2000 Best Picture, not something that John Dies at the End will probably be receiving. Starring Russell Crowe and Joaquin Phoenix, who I think you looked surprised when I told you it was the same guy as in Her.
Well, like, the guy in Her looks so pathetic and weak, and he looked like he could legitimately beat my dad up.
Yeah. Versatile actor. I friggin' love Gladiator, and I love it because it doesn't have... I don't want to say that. I want to say it doesn't have a happy ending, because for the main character, in many respects, it does not have a happy ending. It doesn't even have a happy story. But in the entirety of the narrative, it does have a happy ending, and that's really weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean, because Maximus, you know, he gets his revenge. He does what he's going for. He saves Rome.
Yeah, that's what I mean by happy ending.
But ultimately, his family's still dead, and Maximus dies.
Yeah, revenge, honestly, best served cold, by the way. A revenge story, I feel like, can never really have a happy ending. Unless, you know what I mean?
It depends, because it depends on what they're fighting back against or what they're going to gain out of revenge.
I feel that.
Because Maximus went on a quest that he could not... I realize he was forced into being a gladiator, but
Yeah.
he went on a journey of revenge that he couldn't gain anything more out of.
That his family was dead, and
Yeah.
that wasn't going to change.
But they were motive. His family being dead was increased motive for him to get... what was his name?
Commodus. You called him Augustus.
Yeah.
Because that's historical.
Well, no, because they mentioned that the guy isn't Caesar.
Marcus Aurelius?
Yeah, that's not Caesar. They said it was Caesar beforehand.
I thought he was a Caesar.
He is a Caesar, but he is not Caesar.
He's not Julius Caesar.
Yeah.
I got you.
So that's that. I got that wrong. But anyway, Comius or whatever. Commodus. Look, you got Korak, I got Commodus.
There we go.
But Commodus was a dangerous, crazy man, and him killing his father, who Maximus looked up as a father.
Yes.
And then Commodus killing Maximus's family. All that death surrounding him was a motive, a very personal motive for Maximus to get back at Commodus and save Rome from having such a terrible, terrible person.
Yeah, well, I feel like when I say it had a happy ending, it's because I feel like the majority of his quest was definitely for revenge. But also, he really wanted to, because he loved Marcus Aurelius, he really wanted his visions of Rome to be what they wanted, or what he wanted. And he told Maximus specifically, Commodus cannot be the leader, because of that scene where Commodus says, you had the 4 virtues, and I realized I had none of them, but I have these other virtues, which were kind of crap. So as soon as he killed Commodus, he did save Rome. And so I feel like maybe at some point that became more important to him than the fight for revenge. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't think he went for him for revenge. Or I'll put it this way. By the time he was at Rome, being a gladiator, he didn't want revenge for his family anymore.
I agree with that.
Because when Maximus meets him, when they're all surrounded by guards, and he starts mocking his family and said his son screamed like a girl and his wife was a whore.
Yeah.
That's what he said. Maximus, if he was still in the rage that he was in when all of this happened, he would have attacked him.
Yeah.
But Maximus holds himself because to him, the goal of Rome is now, at that point, that's what's more important. So I think he lost the want for revenge of his family a lot sooner into the movie.
Yeah, because if he would have attacked Commodus at that point, he would have been Maximus the Evil or whatever.
Exactly. That's That's what Commodus said. I don't want to make a martyr.
It's really, I feel like it's really an amazing movie. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but it's just like, I should have taken notes on this. I didn't because I felt like I'd be prepared, but I'm not. It's so complicated, you think. Then it's like, I don't know, like, there's so much stuff that just...
Well, I mean, I don't think it's complex. The movie, visually, is beautiful. It is a stunning movie, especially for 2000, because the movie was made in 2000.
You mentioned the colors.
Yeah. But plot-wise, I don't think it's very complex. I think it's a pretty, I don't want to say generic plot, but I want to say it's like an average, it's very much a revenge plot.
Yeah.
In that regards, it's a much more average sort of trope-filled plot when it comes to it. It follows Greek mythology very well.
Yeah.
You have the hero's calling and the hero's injury, which is his family, and then goes through all that. So when it comes to that, it's very much sort of a cookie cutter story. It's not bad. It's really good. If something does average very well, then it still does it very well. And that's how I feel that Gladiator did it, but I don't think it's any complex or innovative story. I think if you pay attention, then you've got it.
I agree with that. Dang, now I feel bad. I do feel like if I had to say a problem with the movie is that the evil villain is so obviously evil. Like, the best evil villains are the ones that are good guys in their own story. Like Magneto. You know what I mean? His basically thing is like, people are evil, so we have to destroy them because they're something the X-Men. Like, they're hurting the X-Men or whatever. So Magneto is leading the people against, like, humans. Commodus?
Do you not like the Joker then?
Well, the Joker is just fucking crazy.
Well, the Joker does evil because he wants to do evil.
Well, yeah.
So...
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I can't even talk. Shut up.
Welcome to Cole 1.
This is what... Cole to the first power. Just Cole.
All Cole all the time. I don't think Commodus was evil for the sake of evil. I mean, he was obviously evil to everybody else, but I don't think he was... Like, he's the hero in his story. To him, he's the rightful ruler of Rome.
That's a good point.
He's the son of the emperor. Why wouldn't he be the ruler? That's Commodus's viewpoint.
And it's just hard for him to accept that he just can't be it because he sucks.
Exactly. He's a shitty person, but, the secret thing about shitty people is they can't tell they're shitty people.
Everybody else is just shitty to them.
Exactly.
Wasn't that a quote in the movie?
Was it?
It might have been in John Dies at the end. When it was something like, you never know that you're crazy. You think you're normal.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody else is crazy around you.
Yeah, he calls the priest, and the priest says, he says to the priest, am I crazy? And then the priest says...
This is in John Dies at the end, by the way.
This is in John Dies at the end. He says, well, crazy people usually can't tell they're crazy. How can the organ that's sick diagnose the same thing? It's like looking at your own eyes when you're blind.
Yeah. Basically, he thinks that the traits that he does have, his virtues, are enough to be the emperor. Whereas his dad feels that Maximus has the actual virtues that he needs to be the emperor. And that point was made very clearly.
Yeah, because his dad, Commodus's dad, saw that his son had grown up to be someone who was very selfish. And that is Commodus's character in a nutshell. He is selfish.
Well, he said that his son was always selfish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's all the virtues that Commodus talks about at the beginning.
Which is kind of ironic because his sister had all of the good virtues, but she couldn't be Caesar because she was a woman.
Exactly.
If only you were born a man, is what he says.
If only you were a man, then you could have been a Caesar.
Yes. That poor lady.
Dude, that sucks.
Okay, in case you haven't seen the movie, Commodus is in love with his sister, and she won't love him back because she's not into that. So he basically, at the very end, right when Maximus is about to win, but nobody knows that yet, he basically says, because she has a son with someone else. Her husband died. He basically says, the son will live it with me. If she does not love me as I love her, then he will die. Damn.
So every time there was a man and a woman in the same frame and they were close to each other, I would look over to Cole and I'd say, are they gonna bang?
Yeah.
I would do that every time. I'm sure he got annoyed.
It was whatever.
I did that every time a man and a woman got on screen. I think once. Yeah, I did that once when it was Commodus and his dad.
Yeah.
But
I'm thinking, was it because Commodus' dad was on his knees?
it was because Commodus was smothering him to death. And I was like, are they gonna bang? But one thing that did happen is when Commodus and his sister got sort of close to each other, I had said that again. I said, are they gonna bang? And then you just looked at me. And then I wanted to say, when like the really gross stuff started happening at the end, I wanted to say, called it.
Yeah. When Commodus is like rubbing her lips and then sucking on his finger.
Yeah, that was disgusting.
Yeah. Listen, one of the things I love about the movie is, and I said this, it's like the little jokes that aren't intentionally funny, but they're funny in the world of the movie. Like, at one point, the gladiators, who are Maximus, the good guys basically, the gladiators are fighting against Roman soldiers, and they're reenacting the Battle of Carthage. And in that battle, the Romans are supposed to kill the gladiators. But since Maximus is a military general, he's able to get the gladiators to victory. And Commodus, who's Caesar and he's watching, he goes, I might have had my history wrong, but I believe the Romans were supposed to win the Battle of Carthage. And then the guy who set up everything just said, I'm very sorry.
There are jokes in it, like intentionally funny jokes though.
Oh, like you sold me queer giraffes?
Yeah, like that's totally intentionally a funny line.
Yeah.
A light in the darkness, so everything else sort of shines.
Or like, which would be very realistic for the time, I feel, when they go to the Commedia Street Theater scene where Maximus is played by an adult and Commodus is played by a little boy, and then Maximus turns around and farts on the little boy.
Oh, how grown up, how mature.
Quite. No, that's what theater was back then.
Yeah. Fart jokes.
If you're not killing each other, you're wearing masks, beating the crap out of each other, and farting on each other.
I say we bring Commedia back to Broadway.
Yes. I am the Lord Commodus.
Oh. And then I had an observation very, very closely into the movie, which was the colors.
Yes.
And
I'd never realized this before.
yeah, so I watched a movie. It was not a movie. I watched a video essay about the colors in Marvel movies. And this video essay, it's very good. It explains why Marvel movies sort of look like concrete, because their colors are very drab.
Yeah, yeah.
So the thing is Marvel has a way of adjusting their camera that they use for every movie, and they set it there and they don't change it. What this movie does is they use their set for the camera to exaggerate certain colors in certain scenes. Now, this isn't a unique thing to this movie. Many movies have done it. Her is an example of it. Hannibal Lecter is an example of it.
Wait, do you mean Silence of the Lambs or Hannibal Lecter?
Hannibal Lecter.
Isn't that the movie where he eats the guy's brain with the spoon?
Yes.
Credible.
Hannibal Lecter is an example of it. The TV show Pushing Up Daisies is an example of it because they exemplified greens and yellows in that. But in this, it depends on the scene it is. But they are pushing the colors of blue and orange, and as a side effect of orange, they're pushing up red. And it makes for a very visually interesting movie. Everything looks very naturally lit.
Oh, yeah, especially all of the Roman flags look beautiful with the red pushed up.
Yeah, because they're in snowy environments generally. So what you're going to see is you're going to see this beautiful blue landscape with this piercing blood red flag just waving because it's showing the impending doom, especially at the beginning with the battle with the Germanians.
When the Romans totally destroy.
Just absolutely decimate. So it makes everything have this very nice natural lighting to it because obviously you have the sun, which has general orange lighting, and the sky, which reflects blue onto things. I looked for symbolism in it. That's what I was doing a lot of the movie. I was looking for symbolism. And what I feel like if I watched it again, I'd be able to get a more solid thesis. But I feel like the colors show control of Maximus and control of Commodus. I feel like that's something that could be talked about, but I definitely don't have enough about it.
It's essentially also, I thought this was your point. When the colors of blue and red are exemplified, it shows impending doom. And that's like very prevalent, like even until the end of the movie, until the final battle where Commodus fights Maximus one-on-one. In the very beginning, there's tons of red flowers being thrown everywhere. But the color of orange, which was the color of the girl's dress a lot of the time, she was a good guy, or of Marcus Aurelius, or of the sky at the very end of the movie, showed humanity and lifefulness.
See, I thought that, but there's a very important scene that gets rid of that idea. And that's because the scene where Commodius kills his father, who's the emperor, is completely lit in orange.
Oh, shoot, okay. I got you.
So that's why I stopped that idea. So then I started thinking, okay, what if it's about control? Because the world being lit in orange, if orange were to signify control of Commodius, then it would make sense that orange was the color of Rome when Commodius was emperor.
It was also the color of the girl's dress when he was madly in love with her.
So I feel like there's something there, but I don't think I have enough evidence to back anything up. But that's where I stopped the idea of orange being life and humanity. But it means something. They definitely did put thought into the color of this movie. That's why it won Best Picture.
Yeah, actually. It's really good.
Are we doing final thoughts?
I don't know. I haven't had much to say this whole time, and what I have had to say has been pretty dumb, because I watched this movie a while ago in the bathtub, and today when we were watching it, I fell asleep because I figured I've seen it enough times that I'd have enough to talk about. And I don't.
Nothing like a bath time movie watch in the podcast.
When I watched Gladiator in the bathtub, I cried at the end. Because it does have a lot of good moments. Like in the beginning, when he first starts to be a gladiator, he meets a black guy. I don't know what his name is, and
I don't think he ever gets a name.
He probably doesn't. I don't think any of the gladiators got names, actually.
No, yeah, none of them did.
And basically, the black guy was saying, "I have a family back in Africa." Or wherever he was from. They're in Egypt at this point. He goes, "I have a family back in Africa. I'll never see them again."
Hey. Egypt's in Africa.
God dang it. Anyway, he goes, "I have a family back in Africa. I'll never see them again, but I'll be waiting for them when I get to heaven." Which totally upsets Maximus because his family is dead at this point, and so he knows that they're waiting for him to get to heaven because they died first. And so the black guy is basically saying, "I hope I die first so that I can wait for them." But at the very end of the movie, due to everything that Maximus does, ending with him sacrificing himself, the black guy goes free. And at the very end, he takes the little dolls of Maximus's family that Maximus would pray to, and he buries them where Maximus died. And then he says something that I forgot, but it was really good. And then I made a joke that he died before he got back to his family.
Gladiator 2.
Gladiator 2.
The Gladiator.
But it's just understood that due to this whole journey, this guy got to do what he thought he'd never be able to do again, and that is see his family, which is something that Maximus was never able to do in the first place. And that made me really happy, and I cried.
That's fair. Want to say our ending pieces on Gladiator?
Should I go first and then you can go?
Sure.
To me, this is a really good movie. There's a lot of stuff about ancient Roman culture that actually totally freaks me out. Ever since I saw the movie Immortals, where
Like what?
like the Iron Bowl,
Yeah.
the torture device, the Iron Bowl, where they put people in a metal bowl and they roast them until they die. Rip. Or in this movie,
When you roast them.
when you roast them.
They put them in a bowl and
Yeah.
they have a roasting session.
Or in this movie, how okay, you have the good guy gladiators, and then you have the bad guy gladiators, who are like the good gladiators. All of them are totally devoid from humanity. Like this one guy's just wearing like a dead goat's head, or like his head, or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And that's sort of, it freaks me out because the feeling of total oppression, like in 1984, how basically the Roman government has total control to whatever Caesar wants. And in this movie, it totally flips on its head because Maximus becomes essentially the leader of Rome before he even kills Commodus, because everybody loves Maximus because he's a good person. Or he's Maximus the Merciful. Or Commodus loses all power because people realize that he's fucking crazy. It's sort of like, it's a story that gives me hope, because when you read something like 1984, in which at the end of the story, in terms of the story, there's no hope for destroying the oppression. In this movie,
It happened.
it happened, and I love that.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Continue your thoughts.
I feel like a lot of the characters, all of the characters really, are fleshed out in some way, unlike John dies at the end. All of the characters you care for, and you know what they're coming from, except for maybe the one senator who loves whores. I don't really care about that guy. Gidtrod, I think his name was.
I don't remember that guy.
He was the guy who Maximus was trying to make the deal with, that he would go get his army for him. You know what I mean? He met him in the jail. Yeah, see, I don't really... Like, some of the senators, like, you don't really care about. But the main characters in this story are all really fleshed out, and you care about their motivation and where they're coming from. And that's another really important thing for movies for me. It's also beautiful as crap. And... I mean, it's 3 hours long, so it's going to be epic, and I just love it.
All right, so my thoughts. It was a good movie. It was a good movie. Like I said, it's a pretty standard revenge plot, but if you can do a standard plot very well, then you've done a very good story. So I think that's important to remember there.
A lot of Shakespeare's plots were pretty standard.
Yeah, a lot of Shakespeare's plots are pretty standard. And then, but the biggest part of the movie for me, because the writing was pretty solid. I enjoyed most characters. I didn't think anything felt unnecessary, unlike most of John dies at the end.
I would like to say, though, after having said all my stuff, I am pretty biased because I like this movie already, whereas Cole isn't biased because he's never seen it before.
I also like John dies at the end.
And I don't.
But, well, see, I acknowledge John dies at the end is a bad movie, but it's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gladiator, the character's pretty solid. Everyone gets some sort of development, and or what they are is very well established. The big thing about this movie for me was the visuals. It was stunning. It was beautiful. The way they used colors, the way just these huge landscapes and set pieces, and the lack of CGI when it came to backdrops. It was amazing. Especially all the mainly practical effects.
When you go to the Colosseum, and even the characters are like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
To close out, did you like Gladiator?
Yes.
Would you watch it again?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you like John dies at the end?
I'm glad I watched it.
Would you watch it again?
I wouldn't watch it again by myself to inspect it, but let's say there's 2 rooms in which the doors must always remain open, and
Shut up.
And in one room they're showing John dies at the end, and in the another room they're showing the Angry Birds movie. I wouldn't be upset at choosing to go see John dies at the end. How does that make you feel?
Well, I guess having better than the Angry Birds movie is something worthy of putting on a disc.
I liked it. I thought it was really creative, and I love creativity. I also feel like I sound like a caveman talking about art with you.
It's okay.
This has been Cole Squared, our semi-regularly recorded podcast, right here on iTunes, where we talk about whatever the heck we want.
Tune in next time where we review Christmas films, despite it being after Christmas.
And our second episode is going to be our Christmas special. I hope you're really stoked, because we are. Good night, everybody.
What if it's not night? This podcast has been brought to you by Fiji Water. It's not just water, it's expensive water.
Looks like a ribcage.
I'm opening the next segment with that.
It looks like a ribcage.
It looks like a ribcage.
Just put that after the episode ends. It looks like a ribcage.
Bloopers.